Today we're talking about repurposing old things for a modern world, and as a completely unrelated note, there's some lions in there. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, as I say, today we're talking all about things that are of history, of their time, being repurposed for this new and modern world that we live in. One of the really obvious things, and I'll be honest, didn't even come into my mind when planning this video, is actually the bike I'm using for this series. It's an electric bike with a very specific purpose, and well, let's be honest, bicycle technology has been around for centuries, and yet somehow the base form, excusing the penny farthing of course, hasn't really changed a great deal. And sure, they're much easier to pedal, they're much easier to ride, they're much more enjoyable, they're a damn sight safer, but let's be real, this is a repurposing of pretty old hat technology that, well, just still works, and with a bit of modern inventorcism, not sure if that's a word or not, has become, yeah, something very, very modern indeed. Now, it's been over a week since the last video was filmed because, frankly, it just hasn't stopped raining. We definitely had what we call full summer here in the UK in early May. But then the end of May, well, back to business as usual, and as a result everything is absolutely sodden. I would like to do this ride without getting entirely wet and muddied up. It only stopped raining about 6 hours ago, but as you can see, the sun is now out and everything, well, it's starting to look pretty good. Cheers. Quick change to the bike then, we now have the bell. It's not actually that loud, which is a bit of a problem, but hey ho, found one that fits nonetheless. So, as I say, because of the weather, I'm trying to take the dry route to our destination today, which predominantly means, let's be honest, being on roads a bit more than I would normally like, but I've found a route, quieter roads, and for anyone who watched the first ride review of this bike, remember the climb that I was cursing on the way back? Well, today we're going down it, and well, it's rough, so this should make for some good viewing. But before we do, let's just talk about what we're doing today. So, as I said, we're talking about things of history, old things being repurposed. That goes for both, not just this bike, but our destination and the beers, two of, that we're covering today. Now, I'm currently making my way to a place called the Bennerley Viaduct, and well, based on how rough this road is, we'll probably resume this in a moment. I'm very used to hitting this flat out on a big full suspension bike, which, to be honest, is fun but isn't much of a challenge. On this thing though, yeah, it's starting to get a little bit rowdy already. Now, that previous bit looks the roughest, but actually this is far worse, because this is broken road all the way down for about half a mile, and you get hooked up wrong like I did just then, you can soon find yourself in a bit of bother. I don't have big chunky tyres to save me today. Well, I do by road comparison, but that's not the comparison that I'm used to. That is just a gap and a half there. Hit that at speed, you are probably dead. On little tyres anyway. Oh dear. Nearly through. Whew. Right, I still have not properly got my eye in for speed on this thing yet. It's so fast and just not as grippy to what I'm used to. But anyway, Bennerley Viaduct. It's a railway viaduct from several hundred years ago that has laid dormant for decades, and to be honest, I've walked, cycled, even driven very close to it for years, and I've never actually seen it, just because of the way it lies. And well, that feels wrong. And more importantly, in the last 2 years they opened it back up. About 2 years ago exactly, in fact, they opened it back up to allow the public to use it as a footpath and cycle path, which, well, it should make some good views and, yeah, at least some marginally interesting content. And much like the viaduct that's been repurposed for a modern use, a leisure facility if you like, the beers we're going to be talking about today are just that. We're going to be looking at one of my all-time favourite Belgian beers, Brugse Zot Blonde, and its modern counterpart, Sport Zot, a nearly alcohol-free, I think it's about 0.4%, but basically an alcohol-free beer that is based exactly off the original. Most other breweries create alcohol-free versions, if you like. The recipe isn't really the same, but yeah, in this case it is very much the same, and the way they've done that is pretty interesting. So, once again, we find ourselves on the Nottingham Canal. This is featured in every video in this series so far because, well, frankly, it's just nice. It's gravel, which is what the bike was made for. It's reasonably empty during the day, and it has access to a lot of nice, interesting, more rural places. And we've just cycled past the viaduct. 1 second. So that is the Bennerley Viaduct. That is where we're heading, and yeah, it'll be interesting views from up there, I'm sure. Just after I said I like the Nottingham Canal because it's normally quite quiet in the day, well, yeah, you know exactly what just happened. Endless people fishing, walking, everything else, which of course is lovely to see, but has slowed progress down just a touch. Right, my favourite feature of this new bike, straight through there, and then we are turning apparently left into a construction site. I don't know if we can get through or not. That says viaduct closed Nottingham side for 10 weeks, March 21st. Right then, all good things have their problems. We're going to reroute this. So we're on a reroute because we can't get through. We're going to go and join the viaduct at the other side, go onto it, then I guess turn back around and yeah, go out the same way because we can't do a loop through it, but never mind, that's what these adventures are all about. I do though need to give a bit of a shout out to both the Bosch Flow app that comes with the bike and using it with Komoot, the walking, hiking, cycling, everything kind of planning app that is free to use, and the free tier is fantastic. Actually, I've not upgraded from it because it is so good. And yeah, well, it's basically, as soon as I carried on my way, it's rerouted me exactly to where I want to go, which, well, yeah, I'm impressed. That's all I can really say. I've got no idea where I am now. This looks like some old military works, but I don't know if you can see over there. I don't think the camera's high enough, but there is the viaduct itself. So we are definitely heading in the right direction. But we have a solution. There it is in all its glory. They used to call it the Iron Giant, I believe. And well, you can see why. I mean, that's about as architectural gets for that time period. And yeah, look at it. It's just a magnificent, in fact, let's have a little detour under the viaduct itself, shall we? I don't know what this land is. I assume I can be here. It seems to be on the map. And that's as close as we can get to it, but It looks good, doesn't it? It looks good. And I think there was a bird of prey just behind there. It's disappeared. Never mind. But yeah, just look at that. Not every day you get up close and personal with some ancient, well, ancient's probably the wrong word, but some very historic architecture quite in that style. All right, we're back in the dark, muddy woods, so I was trying to avoid, but we are now on the right path to get to the viaduct. A minute ago, I was basically just cycling parallel to this on all that concrete stuff, but as far as I could tell, there was no thoroughfare. So let's see if our luck is about to change. Puddle, 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 puddle. My arse is wet. Puddle, 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 puddle. Right then, well, that bit's not gone to plan, has it? Oh, guess what? Puddle. Oh, that hurt. Puddle. The train. Probably not going over the viaduct because it's closed and they'd run over a load of kids, but there's a train. All right, I have it in my sights once again. It's turning into a longer ride than I'd anticipated. Oh well, at least we'll have burnt those beers. You guessed it, back on yet another canal path. We have found it. Welcome to Bennerley Viaduct. And I think this side, is this steps or is there a cycle route through this one? No, we have cycle path. And we have made it. Wow, this is pretty cool. I'll be honest, kind of wish I'd brought that beer out with me now, but anyway, one for later. It makes some slightly unnerving noises while you ride on top of it. Yeah, it looks big and sturdy, but doesn't necessarily sound it. And there we have our suspicions confirmed. It is indeed shut from the other side. And earlier we were stood, oh, well, I can see it, but yeah, just the other side of that chain link fencing over there. Right, we've made it up. As you can see, it doesn't look too dirty on camera, but on closer inspection, there's mud everywhere, including on my phone screen and, well, all over me. I don't know if you can hear that really weird noise. I think there's birds nesting underneath this. Don't want to disturb them while trying to get down there, but anyway, this is it, Bennerley Viaduct. In hindsight, I should have absolutely bought a beer up here because it's closed at one end. It would have been fantastic to do a beer review up here, and well, maybe that's something we can do another day, but for now we're going to enjoy it. Look at the fantastic old school architecture. That wasn't meant to happen. Don't lean your bike up in windy areas. The first war wound. But in a way, I'm just glad it happened on camera, to be honest, because that's a memory now. And yeah, the camera didn't get broken or anything like that, so we're all good. Yeah, bike's had its first little bump, inevitable, absolutely inevitable. And well, it wasn't inevitable. I didn't have to try and leave my bike up in a nice fancy spot for a photo, but you get the idea. At some point, it's inevitable. So yeah, let's get home and get those beers open. So there we have it, the bike ride is done. We've earned our beers for today, and as I said, we are looking at Brugse Zot Blonde, one of my... I really struggle with this because I always want to call it one of my favourites, and I know I did earlier in the video, and it is. but it's my favourite because it's just a bit more chill. It's like, it's more than a lager. It's properly Belgian, but it's not a big, thick, double, triple, quad. It's its own kind of thing. And then we've got the reimagining for the modern world, the alcohol-free version, Sport Zot, which they claim is the same stuff. They take the regular Brugse Zot, they put it into a filter using a reverse osmosis filter, I believe the term is, and it comes out like this. Now, I'm going to do the alcohol-free first because I think, in general, with cycling, alcohol-free beer a lot of the time makes a lot more sense. And then we'll open up the real deal to find out how much the new alcohol-free Sport Zot stacks up against its historical representative. So we stuck that one over there for a minute. The Sport Zot, I mean, they've done a great job actually. I'll show you them both side by side with the branding on these. They do look very similar, following the same kind of line, but you won't mistake them necessarily because of that very differently coloured label. It does say alcohol free on the Sport Zot there, but I'm pretty sure if we take a closer look, it's going to come in at, there you go, 0.4% alcohol, which does count as alcohol free as I understand it, because so natural orange juice, for example, could be at least that strong just by naturally occurring alcohol. So yeah, all good. Right then, let's break into it. Now, it has to be said, that looks like the real deal. Obviously, in the previous episode where we did the left 0.0, it was out the bottle because we were out and about, we couldn't really look at it. But my word, that is an absolutely glorious looking beer. How do the aromas stack up though? It's definitely missing something. It's got, dare I say, a touch of that starchy potato aroma that we have become quite accustomed to with alcohol-free beers, but there is still a bit of yeasty twang in there, so maybe it's not all bad. Let's give it a go. Cheers. I mean, it's cold and refreshing, which is exactly what I need right now. Oh, I was about to say, but that's about the only good thing, and then it started to pique my interest just a little bit more. I'm still not sure. Okay, so it has got a load of characteristics that typically people who are critical of alcohol-free beers, including myself, have complained about in the past when the very early alcohol-free beers came out. They still exist, by the way, the beers with these problems, but they are in general getting better. And it's that slightly weird starchy potato thing that I mentioned before, along with a slightly weird bitterness, a little bit of a, well, it's actual malt, the malted barley. You can taste the malted barley in it for some reason that you can't when it's got booze in it. Like, and I don't mean it tastes a bit malty like a malty beer. I mean, it tastes like you're chewing on the raw product at some point, but it's still got some hop character. It's still got some slightly sherbety, bubblegummy Belgian yeast. And I'm still not going to say that it's the best one out there. It feels honest. And I think that comes down to the fact that it is just this stuff that's gone through some extra filtration, basically, to try and get it out there. It does leave some oddities. It's always going to. But it does feel like a beer that's, well, it feels like a beer that's maybe been brewed a bit wrong, but at the same time you can still find loads of good things about it. So yeah, it's a curious one. I definitely don't hate it, but I don't think I'll ever really work out whether I properly like it or not. But the litmus test really will be, how does it stack up against the real deal? So let's get one of those poured out. I mean, on the visuals, they've done a stunning job. It does look obviously really similar to as the alcohol-free version did when we originally poured it out. The colour is spot on. Carbonation levels are similar. Nice big fluffy white head on it. But it would be unfair to say they don't share similarities, but they definitely don't smell the same. And again, it comes down to those things that we kind of consider to be oddities in alcohol-free beer. The original version does have this nice, big, zesty, fresh, rich
bit of fruit, bit of all sorts going on in there, and that's really all you come away with, along with a bit of alcohol burn. What you really want from an alcohol-free beer, and I'm saying this in an idealistic world where they're easy to make, because they certainly are not, is you want everything but just without the boozy bit. And of course that boozy element is going to impact a lot of other flavours in some other ways, but minimising that is really where it should be going. But the reality is, it feels like flavours have been introduced into this by the removal of alcohol, and it's mainly on the nose now. Yeah, that weird starchy thing, along with it's a mix between the actual malted barley and like all bran cereal. It's not bad, it's just not really what you're expecting or hoping for in your beer. But anyway, let's give the real deal a go. Cheers. I'm going to be completely honest. I want to like and be excited by low and no alcohol beers, because there is a time and place where it would make infinite sense. But even here, with the Belgian legends who, let's be honest, are not going to put something out the door if they don't think it's good enough. And it's weird, I've just taken another sip and kind of, I think the residual from the real deal on my tongue has left the alcohol-free version tasting more complete, like somehow masking those off tones, but it still really isn't there. The Rim McCoy is just richer, thicker, sweeter, spritzier, fruitier, more malty, but it's more everything, really. And if I had to give this a score out of 10, like how, or out of 100, whatever, a percentage of how much the alcohol-free beer tastes like the original, we're in the realm of 45 to 55%. Like we're about halfway, basically, swinging either side of that. And it's got so much positiveness of like the very core base of the beer that does seem to be exactly the same. But those bits that really stand out to you, that really take over your senses, are just nowhere near whatsoever, which is a bit of a shame, but it's always a test worth doing. If I went somewhere and I fancied an alcohol-free beer and they had Sport Zot, I'll be honest, it is not horrendous. I probably would buy it. Like, it's really not bad, but it just does have some of those notes that we generally complain about when it comes to alcohol-free beers. But given the choice, and I think you knew this anyway, it's 6%, you could have a small bottle of it, give it half an hour, you could still cycle home, perfectly capable, or I could anyway, I'm not speaking for anyone else's. Ride, cycle and drink responsibly. That's going to be a new phrase. Incidentally, also probably the subject of next week's video, but more on that later. But yes, it's 330ml bottle, 6%. In this situation, I'm going to go for the real deal. But to be honest, that is all I've got to say about it. Are you enjoying this Pedals and Pints series so far? Please let me know in the comments below. Anything you want to see more of, see less of, just let me know, because this is an experiment that's immediately going out into the great wide world. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to make it work along the way. So your feedback is ever as important. But yeah, that really is everything. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you'll be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.